John, I have a question for you.
Yes.
I got my DNA results back. How much was it to qualify as a minority or Indian Native American blood in you?
Most tribes, it's at least 1%. Most tribes will accept you if you have more than 1% Native American blood, because the way they view it is that 1% of that blood is stronger than the other 99% of the blood in your body.
Oh, wow.
A spiritual way they view it, that Native American blood is stronger, more powerful than any other race. So if you have more than 1% Native American blood, some tribes will accept you and give you a tribal card. What you need to do now that you got your DNA test, you need to document any stories that you can remember, any stories your grandma, your cousins, your aunt, niece, nephew, anything they ever remember about people talking about being Native American. I tell the same story all the time, because the only person in our family that ever said we were part Native American was my grandmother. And, my dad used to talk about it. And when you asked my grandmother what type of, Indian we were, she'd say, one of them mean sons of bitches. Yeah. My grandma chewed and dipped and all kinds of stuff. She was pretty tough. But, that was the only story. So what you're looking for is stories that would relate to somehow either in a time frame or in a certain area, so they could put 2 and 2 together and figure out what tribe you're from, because they can't necessarily double check and see what tribe you're from just from the DNA. In some cases they can, but in some cases they can't. So you need to document all the stories, and then you take your DNA test and all the documented stories, and you look through your family tree and see what side you would guesstimate, that part of the family came from, and when your dad was born where, and when your grandparents were born where, when your great-parents were born where, your grandparents were born where, and then you'll guesstimate which tribe you think you're from, and then you send the information to that tribe, and they take your DNA and your documents and your family tree, and they determine if they think you're from their tribe, and if they do, then they give you a tribal card, and you're now Native American.
Wow.
Yeah.
Can you hear me okay now?
I can hear you just fine.
Great. The other thing I wanted to ask you about, and I ought to do some research on the Native, because I know it's my great-great-grandmother that is from the Kickapoo tribe, as a matter of fact.
Okay.
And I couldn't believe it when I asked my aunt about it, so yeah. Anyway, the other thing I wanted to ask you about, I have, I've done I've submitted my first proposal on a solicitation, and I should know something probably within 30 days, I imagine. Whenever it says archive date, is that the date that they should respond by?
No, the archive date is the date that they're going to archive it. They're going to take it off of FBO and put it in the archives.
I see. Okay. So, is there any idea, is there anything in there that you can look at that says how long they're going to take to make a decision on it?
Yeah, usually they'll specify in FBO. You've got several instructions to offer. The primary instructions to offer, 52.212-1, is the instructions on how they want you to submit your bid. 52.212-2 is how they're going to evaluate the bid. 52.212-3 is how they're going to award the bid. So they'll tell you what time they're going to guesstimate that they're going to choose the vendor and what time they're going to have you start the work, etc. 52.212-4 is how you can request a debriefing or do what is it called? A bid protest. So those are typically and those are usually in the synopsis and inside the documentation of each solicitation. Sometimes they'll give you a debriefing window. They give you a certain time frame that you're allowed to request a debriefing, and if you don't request it during that window, they're not going to send you one.